I'm live again today. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm going to start the poll, and we may have a second poll question. However, if you know me and you know my lives, then you'll know that I always forget to end the poll before the live because I get so excited and I'm so nervous by the end of the live that I just want out. I just want to get out of here, and I forget to end the poll and talk about the poll results. But we're going to try. Maybe halfway through the live, I will stop this poll, look at the results, and maybe start another poll. But we will see about that. It's hard for me to multitask when I am doing a live because I'm just sort of like stuck on the camera. And so I will try and look over at the chat, and then I will look over at my points. So when you see me looking this way, I'm looking at the chat, and this way I'm looking at what I should be talking about. And so today I'm going to talk about how to retire and not worry about money. You know, that's one of the big things about people who retire early is they worry about, are they going to run out of money? And the key to not running out of money is needing less money. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to talk about today. But I'm also going to take your questions about retiring early and different strategies that you may be thinking of and wondering, would this work, or how do I put in a cushion or a backstop to make sure that when I retire early, we're not going to have any hiccups. It's sort of like having an emergency fund. I don't have an emergency fund. I'm building an emergency fund. Just for everybody that's not freaking out right now, I am building an emergency fund, but when I retired early, I didn't have an emergency fund. I had income, and that was my plan. Was that a good plan? Who knows? It worked, but I'm not saying that was the safest plan of action. It was variable income. It was not the income that I'm going to talk about here shortly. Good morning, Mrs. Paula. Hi, Lisa J. Thank you for coming in. Shadow Scout, thank you for being here. So I did not have the most solid plan, is all I'm going to admit. It worked for me because I have lived my life on the edge. I have built wealth by living on the edge. I'm not saying that that's a good plan. I'm just saying I did the best I could do, right? That's not what other people do who are smarter and knew more about, how to do things correctly, such as save an emergency fund, then start investing, right? That's other people. That wasn't me. I didn't have any money to save. I had to invest every penny in order to build wealth. And that's what I did. And when hiccups came, I would go to my credit card and I would live off of that for a couple of weeks until another paycheck came in, and then I would pay that off. None of this do I recommend, okay? I do not recommend doing it the way I did it. Yes, it worked out for me. Yes, it was a struggle at times. When you only have one rental and the renter doesn't pay, and you still have to make that mortgage payment, you make that mortgage payment out of your current paycheck. However, the money that you would have used from your current paycheck to buy things like food or stuff like that, you now use your credit card. So I was shifting money from one pot to another in the beginning just to survive. And then when a renter would pay double because they missed the rent payment last month, well, then I could pay off the credit card. See, or it may take me a few paychecks to pay off the credit card. See, so I'm saying that I did a lot of things that I wouldn't recommend today, right? But I'm in a different spot today. I think everybody starts with their finances from where they are. You don't say, well, if life was perfect, I would do it this way. No, you start from where you are. Like Lisa J. Lisa J puts in $10 a day, 5 days a week. into her stock, do that. Do whatever works best for you at this season of your life. And so now we're going to talk about this season of my life. And so I'm checking the comments over here. And everybody's greeting each other. Let's see. And Tiger is saying that he doesn't have an emergency fund either, just not really. But, you know, we are retired early, Tiger and I, and we have other things. He may have like a large 401k. I don't know. But what I have, I could talk about what I have, is I have different income streams, which is the first thing that I wanted to talk about today, of not worrying about money when you're in early retirement. And Tiger and his wife, they were just doing DoorDash. So not only do they have potential pensions or 401ks, whatever they have, those are multiple streams where they have access to money from multiple streams. However, when they add in DoorDash, that adds in another level of backstop cushion so that they don't have to touch their investments. They don't have to touch any potential pensions. And that's what I'm talking about with me. So you all recently know that I just applied for Social Security. That's like my pension in that it's a stable floor of income. So now I will have my pension income, I'll have Social Security income starting in 2026. So those are 2 monthly stable floors of income. As long as I live below what those 2 stable floors are, I have nothing to worry about, because my variable income from my rental properties and from my teaching income, which my teaching income, I have one college that is very stable, right? Almost guaranteed they're giving me 6 classes per year, which I can count on. The other 2 schools have been dwindling, and that's just life. Now, I can go out and I can pick up more schools, right? I've taught at 5 or 6 schools at one time. I have to resist going out and getting more work because I am a hustler, right? You know, if I could work 24/7, I would work 24/7. But what's the point of early retirement if you're not going to enjoy early retirement? So I am not going to go out and get more colleges just to bring in more money. I'm not going to do it. It's very hard on me because I've spent so many years trying to hustle up colleges and get more colleges and more colleges that it's really hard for me to say, Daryl, you have enough. Okay? You can live off of your stable, pension and Social Security. Whatever you get from teaching income, and I'm going to talk about this in just a moment, but whatever you get from teaching income is extra. It's icing on the cake. You don't need more icing on the cake. You got plenty of icing. Rental income is icing on the cake, which will grow over the years. As the properties are paid down, then the cash flow increases. So that is a stream of income that's only going to increase. And so, hi Q, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And I loved your short about the hawk this morning. That was really cool. So I am talking about, and I'm going to try and keep an eye on the chat. I'll look this way for the chat and look this way for what I'm supposed to be talking about, which I never get to because I ramble the whole time. So we're talking about retiring early and not worrying about money. So the first one was having multiple streams of income. So if I spent more then my pension plus Social Security, which I'll start next year, if I spent more than that in my monthly living, is what I'm saying, just my regular monthly expenses. We're not talking about when I travel. When I travel, that's a whole nother level of spending because I'm here to enjoy life. And when I travel, I am going to kick it up a notch in the future, more than even I travel right now. So that's my future plan, is to have more income coming in the future, which allows me to travel more in the future. But month to month, day to day, when I'm here at home, I want to just live on less than Social Security and my pension. And so, what does that mean? I was going to talk about that in a little bit, but what that means is now that I'm taking Social Security at the beginning of 2026, I totally have enough income. It basically replaces my teaching income. And so, if your streams of income can replace other streams of income, now you're stacking your comfort level. So you have less worries, because if one stream of income goes away, not that my pension will never go away and Social Security should never go away, right? Those are there. But if teaching goes away, Social Security will make up for that. My rental income will make up for that. All of these different streams of income back each other up. So let's talk for a second. Yes, please put fire in the chat like Q did so that your channel comes up. And excuse me, I have the sniffles, even though I took my allergy medicine and all my vitamins this morning. So let's talk about how I did this, because I want to make sure I don't forget to talk about this. When I worked for the federal government, I made $80K a year. And this is after I made it up to six figures, just over 100K, and then went back down to 80K for the last 7 years that I was working. A 1% pay raise every year. So basically 79, 80K. Well, I started getting all of these colleges, right? And I was just talking about that, how I hustle for colleges, right? And I got so many colleges and so many classes from so many colleges that it equaled the 80K per year that I was making on my full-time job. Now I'm working every night, I'm working every weekend, in addition to my full-time job. So I'm hustling, right? But I now have 160K a year in income. So when the straw that broke the camel's back with my job, and I said, that's it, I quit, I went from 160K back down to 80K. So I was already used to living on 80K. I went back down to 80K, but now that 80K is teaching income. And so for the next year and a half, until my pension kicked in, thank you for redacting something. Did Shadow Scout Swede get redacted? I don't know. I don't know what just happened over there, because he shouldn't, his comments are okay. So anyway, I went from 160K back down to 80K when I quit my government job, and I knew that I wouldn't get my pension for a year and a half. So I had to live on that 80K of teaching income, which is variable. And luckily at that time, it was very stable. I had 4 colleges, and then I've since quit one, so now I'm down to 3 colleges. But those 4 colleges brought me in at least 80K per year. And that was fine until I got my pension. So now I'm getting 80K plus a pension. Then I quit one of my colleges. And guess what? My pension replaced the income of the one college that I stopped working at. So I'm still at 80K. And that's my story, is basically it just hovers around, 50, 60, 70K per year. So that's what I've done is every time I get another stream of income, I let it replace a prior stream of income. Now, my rental income, I bought more rentals in the last 5 years. So eventually that's going to grow and replace all my streams of income. But what I wanted to tell you is that what I plan to do now that I have Social Security starting in 2026 is my plan, and I don't know whether or not this will happen. But in order to make a dream come true, you have to have a dream. And so I have a plan, and we'll see if we can pull this off. But the plan is to start saving 100% of my teaching income once Social Security kicks in and see if I can make it, right? I try to force myself to live on less so that I'm investing more and growing wealth. And so what that looks like is I can take one of my colleges and put the money 100% into their retirement plan. I would put it into a pre-tax plan, which would lower my income taxes. My rentals I can write off. If I become a real estate professional, I can write off even more. So if I become a real estate professional, which is what I'm trying to do with the IRS, I can not only write off all of my rental income, but I can also write off the income from any of my colleges. That much I know. So that's what we're going for. So what we want to do is only have taxable my pension and Social Security. Every other stream of income should be a tax write-off. That's a future plan. That's what I'm working for. And so if I can keep my income to the IRS down to just my pension and just Social Security, I could possibly pay zero in taxes. I want to get myself down to the zero tax bracket. And there's only so much you can do with a pension and Social Security. So anyway, that's the plan. So I have a tiny pension, and I have a better than my pension Social Security. So basically it doubles my pension, which is good. If I'm living now on $900 a month, which is only a part of my pension, you give me another $2,000 and I'll be just fine. Now, having said that, part of that Social Security is going to go for the new mobile home that I'm buying. But I'll still have, and this is just a guesstimate, please don't hold me to this. The guesstimate is I have an extra $1,000 left over. So let's just run some numbers real quick, back of the napkin math. $1,900 is what I'll have to live on every single month. That's way more than my $900 that I'm trying to live on right now. That means teaching income, rental income, all gets invested. The rental income gets invested back into my rentals to pay them off to increase cash flow. The teaching income gets invested either in the retirement accounts at the colleges, where I have the option of a Roth or pre-tax, or, and as Lisa J knows, I'm going to take a little bit of that money and put it into my Vanguard brokerage account. So my point is all of that money gets invested, whether it's invested in my rental properties, whether it's invested in the retirement accounts at the colleges to potentially lower taxes, or whether a little bit of it is in to grow my Vanguard account. But none of those investments should I ever need to spend. And that's why you have zero worries about money. I'm building retirement accounts. I'm building rental income cash flow. I'm building a brokerage account. However, my pension and Social Security are enough to sustain me pretty much for the rest of my life. So what does the other money get spent on? Because we're here to die with zero and enjoy our money in retirement, right? We're here to enjoy life. So what does that extra money get spent on? Travel. See, I plan to travel. I have friends in Denmark, and I was just talking to them over Facebook Messenger, right? And I was talking to a friend in Denmark, and I said, I want to come to Denmark. Now, I used to live in the south of France. If you don't know, that's part of my story. I used to live in the south of France. I used to live on the island of Cyprus. I used to live in Saudi Arabia. And so I have lived in other countries and I have traveled. And I used to go to England once every 3 months to get my work visa renewed. So I have done some travel. But now, as opposed to getting in my car and driving around the US to visit friends, which I still plan on doing, but rather than doing that for like a month and a half, I want to get on a plane and go somewhere and rent a car, right? I'm not real big on rental cars, and we'll talk about that maybe in this live or maybe in another live. But rental cars, they just charge outrageous rates. And so it's very hard for me to kick out that money. Hi, Blessed Budgets by Abigail. Thank you so much for coming. But that's my future, is to take the extra income that I don't need from day-to-day expenses, invest it, let it grow, and then use it later for travel and other vacation-related expenses. We talked about my car. I want to buy a car for cash next time. And so I need to save up that money for cash. One of the things I didn't just mention when I was talking about where all this different money was going to go, some of it is going to go into prudent reserve. I'm starting to build an emergency fund. It's a baby emergency fund right now. So in the future, I am going to have a much larger emergency fund. And I may use that to pay cash for a car. And just in case anybody hasn't seen the kind of car that I want, the kind of car that I want to buy, I only drive 2 doors. If you've seen Betty the bird on top of my Honda Accord outside, she's out there every morning. So you guys will see me on YouTube saying, "Good morning, Betty." She's out there every day now. But Betty is on my Honda Accord. I am getting a carport cover put in my yard out there, and it'll be away from the tree where she lives. So I hope that she stops getting on my car and pooping on my car, because I have to keep taking the car to the car wash to get that stuff off of there. So anyway, the kind of car that I want to buy in the future, because Honda does not make 2 doors anymore, otherwise I'd buy another 2-door Honda Accord, but they don't make those anymore. I'm going to buy a BMW 2-door, and I want a BMW 2-door convertible. And so that is a very expensive car. So for me to do that, I am going to thank you, Paula, for typing in fire. Everybody go to Mrs. Paula Does Retirement. She has dishwashing diaries, and she just sits outside and chats. It's just awesome. I mean, I watch her and I'm like, that's just amazing. How you do that. But she makes you feel so comfortable. That's what I love about Mrs. Paula Does Retirement. Not to mention, she has beautiful land. Where her and her husband live is just beautiful property. I'm on about 3 acres here, which is beautiful, but it's not their land. They've got rolling hills. I'm in the south of Alabama where it's flat, which I'm good with. I'm good with flat. But her land has got rolling hills and that kind of thing. And so, hi, Faith Marie. Thank you for coming. So Faith says that she loves the Honda Acura brand. She said they're behind on tech, but great cars. And I looked at Acuras years ago because I have the top of the line Honda Accord. I mean, the fully loaded top of the line touring model, which is similar to an Acura. It has a lot of the features that Acuras have. However, I could not find a 2-door, 6-cylinder Acura. They have a four-cylinder two-door, but I don't want a four-cylinder car. It's got to be six-cylinder two-door. And so those are my criteria. Convertible is going to be nice. I really want a convertible. And here's my problem, everybody. This is how I spend money. I want top of the line, fully loaded, everything in it. Because I have driven hoopties. Okay? And when you have a $400 car that is $40 down and $40 a month, and the reverse goes out in your car, and you have to open the door and back that car out of a parking spot, right? You get fully loaded cars in the future. That's just me. So now you guys know a little bit about my background and why I'm a little bit crazy about my cars. I want everything that can come in that car in that car. I don't want to say, well, I could have had this and I could have had that. However, the next car, yeah, and I agree with Tiger that Hondas, I have had a ton of Honda Accords. I've had at least six. I've had a couple of Honda Civics, but mostly Honda Accords because I love my six cylinders. And I had a trailer hitch put on my six-cylinder Honda Accord because I can pull my motorcycle with my six-cylinder Honda Accord. That's the other reason. So there was a little practical reason why I bought the Honda Accord. So let's go with, I have to get to my next point because I'm like rambling about all kinds of different other things, which I think you guys are used to. Hopefully you're used to this by now. He has a script, but yeah, script out the window. So let's talk about my next thing of me not having to worry about money in early retirement. I have my teaching, which is online. And that means that no matter where I go, I can still teach these classes at these colleges. Now, I could go to the local college here and try to get a face-to-face class. And I did that when I very first retired. When I was in Maryland, I went to a local community college and I started teaching face-to-face. I hated it. I'm telling you, I hated the commute to drive to the college. I hated all of the preparation that I had to do just to go in front of students for like an hour and a half. And then the commute back home. And I thought to myself, you make so much more money teaching online than teaching face-to-face. A lot of professors love teaching face-to-face. They like that interaction with the students. Right? I'm not here for the interaction with the students. I'm here to make my money and keep my money. So it's just more profitable for me to teach online. The other benefit to teaching online is that I can travel and still teach. So, for example, in January, I'm doing my dream trip of going to Hawaii. But I have a class that starts the week that I go to Hawaii. So I'll have to spend an hour a day or so in the classroom while I'm in Hawaii. So I'm still making money. I'm going to get a paycheck even though I'm on vacation in Hawaii. And that's what I love. I went to Belize on a trip and I was sitting there with my laptop grading my students, looking out over the ocean from Belize, and it was just beautiful weather. And I've got this beautiful 2-bedroom condo. It's just me, so plenty of space inside there. And I'm looking at the ocean teaching. And I'm saying, this is the life. And I have to tell you guys a story. Now we're going to go back into Daryl's story time here. When I was in college, I was getting my master's degree. And I was taking a class. And my professor said, if I don't answer you when you call, I'm out on the golf course behind my house. And he also said, the house next door to me, I bought it, and that's a rental property. So he said, I have a rental next door, and I'll be out on the golf course if I don't answer you when you send me a message about the class. And I thought to myself, that's the kind of future I want. So I got the rental properties, and now I get to travel and teach. So that's another reason I don't worry about money in early retirement. And so Shadow Scout Weed says, I'm used to it. For me, it happens all the time. That he gets outside of the topic. So that's what I do. We go into story time because you guys have to know, how did I get to where I am? And what prompted me was that I saw other people doing it. And if you see me in early retirement traveling not only around the country but around the world eventually, then you say, if he did it, I can do it. I saw other people doing it before me, and I said, if they can do it, I can do it. You know, one of the things, Tiger has got his Overlander, which is like an RV he and his wife have now, and they are now traveling in that. And so someday, while he's somewhere in America, I'm going to jump in my Honda Accord and go see him. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. Is I've never met Tiger on Fire in person. However, I will jump in my Honda Accord if he's anywhere near me, near Alabama, anywhere, and go. That's the beauty of teaching online. That's the freedom that I have in my retirement. So we'll get to point number 3 before I forget, which is what makes all of this now possible is the fact that I decided to take Social Security to make the house payment on the new mobile home. So I get a VA loan, which is 0 down. Social Security makes the house payment. I don't have to make a payment until March or April when it's delivered. So by then, Social Security will already be hitting my bank account. And then I'll just tell the mortgage company, take it from this bank account. So I never, ever have to touch the money, right? Those are things you set up, that automation of your finances so that you're free to travel. Whether I'm here or let's just say I wanted to spend, because these are things that I want to do. I want to go to Ecuador because a lot of expats go to Ecuador. And maybe I want to spend a month or 2 in Ecuador. It's a low cost of living place. My pension and Social Security would give me plenty of money every month to live there. If I wanted to go for a couple of months and then go out to the Galapagos Islands, which are just off of Ecuador, I want to see. I have a friend who, as a teacher I used to work for as her teaching assistant, she went to the Galapagos Islands and she sent back beautiful pictures from there. And I said, someday I want to go. So I want to go, let's say, for a month in Ecuador or a month in Costa Rica and then come back. See, that's why I did not buy an expensive home, because I don't want to be making payments on an expensive home when I could be making payments on a brand new mobile home, which is way bigger than what I need. But anyway, I'm making these payments on that, which still gives me money to travel. Now, am I going every year to all these places? I don't know. You know, I do know that I want to enjoy life while I'm young. And so that's what I want to do. So, hi, Jeff 1979-6. And thank you, Q, for putting fire in. Everyone, if you can, put in fire so that everybody can come to your channel. So, Q, can I make you a moderator? I have a couple of moderators. I don't know if you want to be a moderator on my channel. Let me know. And so everyone, answer the poll. And let me ask you before I forget, are you guys okay with my quotes of the day? You know, I started to ask this last week, and then we had the emergency. Let me see if I can do this. Sorry, I'm taking a second here. Add as moderator. I did it. I've done this sort of on my phone. It's been a while. It's been a while. When you have an old guy here and he hasn't done something in a while, it takes him a second to figure it out. So I panicked for 2 seconds there. And oh, Lisa J, you're already a moderator. Good, good, good. And so Lisa J is prompting me. And Lisa J, I just did this last night. So I'm pretty sure I told you guys at the very beginning of this live, which I don't think I did now, is that I stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning until my paycheck hit my account. And I immediately paid off my credit card because I knew I'd have enough money in this paycheck to pay off that credit card. And what I told you guys was we pay off the credit card, then we pay off the lines of credit. So I'm keeping with my plan. Now, having said that, I'm getting a carport out here. So that's going to run up my credit card in a week or two. And then in December, I have more paychecks coming in from teaching, and I will pay off the credit card permanently. So we're going to start 2026 with just my lines of credit to pay off. So I am paying off my debt. But also what I did, Lisa, was not only did I pay off my credit card at 1 o'clock this morning, I transferred money into my Vanguard account at 1 o'clock this morning. See, Lisa has me doing that. You know, she does like $10 a day and that kind of thing. I do $50 or $100 every time I get paid. Just like I do $50 or $100 every time I get paid into my prudent reserve. So I'm putting $50 or $100 into emergency fund, and I'm putting $50 or $100 into my brokerage account. So these are the two things I'm trying to do while paying down debt. And I'm telling you guys, I punched debt in the face in November because I knew I'd have a lot of teaching income coming in, and I had my best month ever with rental income cash flow. Never had this amount come in because my maintenance was very low this month. Normally, my maintenance is very high because I have older rental properties that need a lot of repairs. And that's just part of buying older rental properties. So know that going in, that you're going to have a lot of maintenance. So I got lucky this month, but I did not fritter the money away. I did not say, oh, I have extra income that I wasn't planning on. Let me go out and buy XYZ. I didn't do that because that's not how I roll, right? How I roll is we pay off the debt. We punch debt in the face. And then I go out and buy more rental properties, which brings in more cash flow. But we're not doing that in 2026. 2026 is our debt payoff year. So I talked about teaching income. I talked about my pension. I talked about Social Security stabilizing my income base. Because every month I have my pension, but then I have to ask myself how much teaching income is coming in. And during some months of the year, like for example, this year I had August off. I have not had a full month off from teaching in 10 years. This year I had the whole month of August off. I didn't know how to behave. But that was my August. What that translates to is no money coming in until mid to late September from teaching. So that's what I mean is it's variable. But the Social Security will now stabilize that base, and I'll be able to count on an extra $1,000 a month, I think, every single month. No matter what, whether I have a class, don't have a class, teaching income, no teaching income. This is the time of year where teaching income is really good, just so you know. I have 3 classes going. I'm trying to think of how many classes I have right now. 4. I have 4 classes going at the moment. But the point is all 3 schools are active. 2 schools pay every 2 weeks, but they pay on opposite weeks. So that means I'm getting a paycheck every single week. And that's when I really pay off debt. The other school only pays once a month. So I'm only going to get 2 checks from that school. However, they're going to be big checks. And what do? I take those and I punch debt in the face when those checks come in, right? So every week I'm, tacking. I guess it's like jabbing. Every week I'm jabbing debt in the face, right? But when that one paycheck that comes in for once a month comes in, boy, I give it the uppercut. That's what I do with my debt. So there's my boxing analogy for how I pay off debt. And I like to think of Muhammad Ali because he would always talk about, dreams and things getting better. And that's what I think is I'm like Muhammad Ali fighting debt. That's what I do, which makes my life better because the less debt I have, the more I can invest. And that's what I've done to build wealth. And so you might say, well, don't you have enough wealth? No. I have enough income. And it's not about your net worth. You can have a high net worth and no income. Or you can have a high net worth and pay a lot in taxes. I'm trying to mitigate all of that. I want the high net worth along with a good amount of income, along with no taxes. See, that's how I'm planning my future, but it has to be a plan. You can't just wake up one day and say, well, we're not going to pay any taxes anymore. So that's how, I plan. And Lisa J, when you see my quote of the day later today, which I haven't done yet, it's going to be what Lisa J said in a recent either podcast or short. I'm not sure where I got it from, but I got it from Lisa J. So today's quote of the day is going to be something I got from Lisa J. And I try to give credit to people when I use their material because that's what we call academic integrity. You don't steal someone else's ideas and not give them credit. So now the professor in me is coming out. Just so you know, that's always in there, to have integrity. So now let's talk about my rental income, which is another reason. It's like another layer on top of all the other layers of why you don't have to worry about money in early retirement. So when I started out, I had just a couple of rentals. And then they appreciated in value so that the bank, when I refied the loan, the bank said, oh, well, you have 4 rentals here. Well, we only need 3 rentals for the loan. We're going to give you this 1 rental free and clear with the refinance. Well, I didn't pay it off. It just went up in value. So I don't want everybody to think, oh, he's got tons of money. He just starts paying stuff off. No. The renters were paying on it. The value went up, I refinanced, and the bank gave me a property free and clear. And again, remember, my property is very low cost. So it's not like a, $500,000 property or something. Anyway, $70,000 property or something. So I get the property free and clear. And then the bank teaches me that, hey, Daryl, you've got this $70,000 property that's free and clear. You could use that as the down payment on another rental property. Okay. So I started doing that. And my rental properties started buying me other rental properties. And with appreciation, the bank would give me another property free and clear. So in 2025, I had 3 properties free and clear. And I used those 3 properties to buy more properties as like the down payment on more properties in 2025. And so that's what I'm saying is that when your rentals start buying you other rentals, and it's not money out of your pocket, which is how I look at Social Security and my mobile home, is Social Security is paying for the mobile home. It's not money out of my pocket. It's not taking away from any of the money that I have in November and December of 2025. And someone might say, and I understand this, that it's taking away from your Social Security. Well, I never had that anyway. So, yeah, it's taking away money, but it's money I never had. And not only is it paying for my home, it's giving me extra cash on the side. So it's like giving myself a raise, which is one of the things I want to get into before we finish here, is geo-arbitrage. Geo-arbitrage is another way that you don't have to worry about money in early retirement. Uh-oh, hold on. My laptop did something, but I don't think that I lost my live stream. I think I just lost my laptop for 2 seconds there. So geo-arbitrage is what Tiger is doing right now. He and Felicia are traveling in their Overlander, which is like a really tricked out RV. I don't know what, I've seen just a little bit of it. But they can travel the country for a lot less money than it would take for them to just live in their home. And they're selling their home. So if anybody wants to buy a house in Maryland, check Tiger on Fire and buy his house. It's in southern Maryland. Beautiful, beautiful home. Hi, Marlene. Great to see you. I'm talking about ways, and I think that I made it through all of my points, actually, because we're going to now talk about geo-arbitrage. This will be the first time I actually